Listening activity number 17.
You will hear a talk about British trade in 1987. As you listen, write down the numbers in appropriate places.
Good morning. I'd like this morning to continue our discussion about British trade, and I have brought a couple of pie charts that I'd like you to look at. They give information about British trade by geographical distribution in 1987. The left pie chart is for exports, and the right one is for imports. Now let's look first at the left pie chart, the exports pie chart. You can see the European Community accounted for 49% of Britain's exports trade in 1987, and the other developed countries accounted for respectively North America at 16%, the rest of Western Europe outside the European Community at 10%, and the other developed countries accounted for 5%. These shaded areas represent the developing countries portion. The larger one is for the other developing countries, except the oil exporting countries, which accounts for 11%, and the smaller, which is for the oil exporting countries, received 7% of Britain's exports in 1987. The last and smallest was Britain's rather minor exports to former centrally planned economies, and this figure was only 2% in 1987. Now let's take a look at the right pie chart, which is for imports. The distribution here is roughly similar. The European Community accounted for 53% of Britain's imports in 1987, and the other developed countries accounted for, again, a large portion. The rest of Western Europe imported 14% of Britain's imports in 1987. North America accounted for 11%, and other developed countries represent 8% of Britain's imports in 1987. Turning to other developing countries once again, the largest of the two shaded areas is for developing countries other than oil exporting countries, and these accounted for about 10% of Britain's imports in 1987, and the remaining shaded area, which is for oil exporting countries, accounted for only 2% of Britain's import in 1987. 2% also is the figure for Britain's imports from centrally planned economies, as you can see from the lined area in the figures.